We are at the EToo event in London, and I'm with Jim Rossignol, the creator of a game called Sir, You Are Being Hunted. Jim, could you tell us a little bit about the game, what you're doing in it?
So You're Being Hunted is open world stealth and survival. It's procedurally generated, which means all the maps, all the environments are bespoke per player. So when you start, you generate a world. After that, you go on and explore it, play through that world, try and survive, and eventually try and get off the island on which you're being hunted by a bunch of robots.
The styling of the game is the robots are almost like English Victorian gentlemen, aren't they? And you're the prey.
Yeah, the idea behind it was to make it British. So it's a British landscape. It's all British sort of architecture, British buildings, and there's a little comment on the British class system in there, and the sort of tiers of robots.
If you're procedurally generating landscapes, how do you bring Britishness into a procedural landscape?
We sat down and talked about the kind of things that actually make landscapes work, and looked. We studied them visually. So, and there are lots of little points in British landscapes that you might miss if you weren't studying them from sort of a physical, topographical nature. Like for example, our Fens maps, which are very waterlogged and have channels running through them and stuff. One of the primary features in them are rows of posts. So you'll have collapsed fences, little characteristic things like that, or for example how brambles structure most hedgerows in the British countryside. Little things like that, when we detail them and put them into the system and allow the game to generate them, that becomes incredibly authentic, and it becomes recognisably British in the way that we've allowed the game to put that stuff together. Now, most games will employ a level designer or a team of level designers to go in and build their environments by hand. So you see this all the time in handcrafted worlds. They build landscapes and forests and all that kind of stuff. We couldn't afford to do that, but we still wanted that kind of huge open world feel. So the only way for us to do that was to write a program that did it mathematically, that knew where it should place buildings, that knew how big fields should be, knew that fields should have hedgerows along them or walls along them, knew that roads should run through them, knew that trees should drop a certain distance apart, all that kind of stuff. And when that runs, that creates the world that we use.
Yeah. Well, can we have a quick look at the game and have a look at you playing it?
Yeah. Okay, so I've just generated this world. We start off at a standing stone circle, so fairly common feature in the British landscape. We find a fallen robot, just some tips and things there of what to do, and we can loot the stuff from his body. But the thing that we're really trying to do is to collect back pieces of a machine that are scattered across the island. Now, the pieces of the machine are going to allow us to get off the island. If I get out my binoculars here, I can see that off in the distance there's a post box, but behind the post box there are some robots, and that trail of smoke, that indicates that there's another fragment there, and those guys are guarding it. So I need to come up with a way of getting over there and getting them away from that piece. Now, if this piece was in a field here, for example, I've been spotted by some other fellas there, I would have been able to throw a bottle. Now you can see the AI reacting there. These guys have heard the two in the field shooting at me, so now they're all investigating the noise. So they're all heading over, so you can see them there.
Do they cooperate on the hunt? Like if one of them spots you, do they react to each other? I mean, it looks like they reacted just to the noise there. And do they have any kind of cooperative behaviours?
There are some cooperative behaviours. I'm bleeding, so I'm going to have to run off and bandage myself up. Now, in the distance there, you can see something else that works with the hunters, which is the balloon. The balloon's not dangerous in and of itself, but because it's searching for you, and also it's silent, so if you haven't seen it coming, you won't necessarily know it's there. It will spot you, and it sets off a klaxon noise, which can be heard across the whole island. So if I run within range of it, it should spot me. There we go, and that's making a loud noise. Now these guys will be able to head over and catch me. So I'm going to have to flee because there's just so many of them after me.
That's great, Jim. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem.